Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the world. If you can turn your cameras on and your microphones off, that would be fantastic for today. Remember, we will be taking questions at the end of this session. So first thing I'd like you to do, type it in the chat window so I can see where you are from. Some of you already started doing that. We're in Australia, we're in Cincinnati, we're in Florida. We are a couple spots across Australia. So that's fantastic to see. We're also here in Las Vegas, Nevada. That is the place to be. Manila in the Philippines, Houston, Texas, Indianapolis, Washington, Mexico. We are moving around the world as we go. France is also in the house. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm BradSugars, the chairman and CEO of ActionCOACH, the author of 4 million books, it feels like. No, only 17. Actually, the 18th book will be out next month. So called Raise Your Hand Marketing. Thanks for typing in where you are at. Now, next thing I'd like you to do is score yourself on a 1 to 10 of your experience in sales. What is your experience in sales? 1 being brand new to the sales game, 10 out of 10 being been in this thing for 30 plus years, sort of thing. So what's your score out of 10 for in the sales game? What's your number? 1 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Where are you at in the sales game? And I'm imagining I'll get a bunch of you that are 7s and 8s and above, because they're the people that keep coming to sales training events. The people that are brand new, often we don't find them at sales training events, but we have a few newbies here today, 2s and 3s. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good to see. So sales, let's take a look at it. Let's learn a bunch about it. Let's focus in on it. I will be asking you to participate during today's session, so make sure you do keep that chat window open and learning. Whenever you get a new idea, that's what I want to see from you, okay? So what do I need from you? Well, let's start with this understanding. Boosting sales instantly. Is it capable? Are you capable of instantly changing your sales results? Are you capable of instantly getting a different level of results in sales? What's your thoughts? Are you capable of instantly changing your sales results? Because a lot of people in sales seem to, I don't know why, but they seem to think that, well, I don't know, can I change that? Can I do that? I don't know how it can be done. What is it? Well, ultimately, my firm belief is that you can change your results in sales in an instant. You can change your results in sales on a dime. Why? Because all it takes is one shift in attitude. All it takes is one question done differently. All it takes is a 1% shift in the way you ask a question. All it takes is learning how to handle that one key objection that you get time after time after time. All it takes is building a sales structure that means you don't get that objection anymore. I know with us at ActionCOACH, we do a 12-week sales training in organizations. It's literally only an hour and a half a week for 12 weeks. But what happens is such a dramatic shift in that person over 12 weeks. And, you might think an instant is 1 minute. What if an instant was 12 weeks? If you're in a sales career 30 years, 12 weeks is an instant. So let's keep thinking about what it is that we can do to shift these things fairly instantly and get the results that we want. So where does that start? The way you approach your day and the way you approach sales is really a massive thing for your success in sales. What you believe about customers. We've all heard the salesperson that says stupid things like, buyers are liars. Like, why would you ever in any way, shape, or form come up with that? How many of you can think of another negative comment that salespeople have made about their customers? What's a negative comment that salespeople have made about customers, potential customers, any type of customers? I gave you the first one, the old buyers are liars type thing. It's a crazy one. What else have you heard out there in the marketplace that salespeople have said? Reason I ask you this is because when there's we go. Sucker born every minute. Oh, Brian, that's a big one, isn't it? Yeah, there's always one. I like to think of it slightly the other way around. The customer of the year shows up every week. Customer of the year shows up every week type thing. My new best customer is going to show up today. My new biggest customer is going to show up this week. All of those sorts of positive beliefs that you can have and you can reinforce to yourself. Let me just throw the screen up here. I want to see as many of you as I can. Raise your hand either virtually in the chat thing or physically by actually raising your hand. There's a bunch of you without your cameras on. Turn your cameras on, gang. I can see you right here. Put your cameras on. And some of you have entered under Gona's name, so change your name in the thing. That's what you got to do. So that was the link. All right. I want to see a show of hands about this simple question. How many of you have a set of positive beliefs that you repeat about your customers on a daily or weekly basis? Who has a set of beliefs, written, documented things that you say to yourself that are positive about customers on a daily or weekly basis? Wave your hand at me. Who has that? Okay, so as you can all see by looking at the screen, how many hands just went up? None. You know, that's awful. Okay, so then let's flip that to the next one. If you look at your products and services, products or services, how many of you have a written, documented set of beliefs around the positives of your product or service? Who has that you say to yourself on a regular, daily, or weekly basis? Who has that? Wave your hand or raise it on the screen thing. Hit the button. Excellent, Scott. Thank you, Mark. Scott, Mark, you're Gunner on my system, but I know it's you, Mark. I can tell by the face that you're not Gunner. All right. So then third one, how many of you have a set of positive beliefs about your performance, about money, around the things that you know around money, that you say, okay, money is good. I make plenty of money doing sales commissions. I earn my commissions. My commissions are valuable. I love getting my commissions because they show that I'm doing such a phenomenal job. Who has beliefs like that one written down? Two people. Excellent. Thank you, George. Thank you, Mark. Oh, sorry, Brian. Thank you, Mark. If you do not have these things, is that something you need to create in the next 24 hours? Yes or no? Hello, yes or no, gang? Yes, we do. You can type it in. You can nod your head. You can give me a thumbs up. Those of you without your cameras on, turn the dang things on. You're on a webinar. You're not in a hidden classroom dang thing. And if your name is still Gona, please change your name on the thing, all right? I don't know why the system made everybody Gona today. So Gona is my right hand, so she gets to have their name up there, but I don't think the rest of you need to have their name up there. Luckily, when you're all registering and I brought someone in to be co-host, I actually brought the right Gona in to be co-host. There you go. All right. So take the next step on this thing, right? So here we are thinking about beliefs around this stuff. Why do we need to change our beliefs? 80% of your success in sales has nothing to do with logic. 80% of your success in sales depends on emotions. What emotions can you engender in the prospect? What emotions do you bring forward to the prospect? What emotions do you bring to the table when you sit in a meeting with somebody? If your emotional control is low, then your success in sales is low. If you do not bring the person to an emotive decision, then you're not going to get sales. You know, when someone is buying a new car, let's say they're going out and they're buying a new car and they're going to buy a Mercedes. Are they buying that Mercedes because of, you know, it's the safety factor, Brad? It's all of those wonderful things. Or are they buying the car because it shows the world that they can afford a Mercedes and that they're pretty cool, that they're successful and all of those things? Of course, it's the emotional things. The question is right now, and I want you to type an answer in for me or show me on your hands. Out of 10, what percentage of your current selling is emotive? What percentage of your current selling is emotive? I'm just going to grab my seat here for a minute. I want to see these scores. Type it in or raise your hands for me. What percentage of your current selling is emotive? 6s, 4s, 80%. Okay, we got an 80. 10, I got some 7s, some hands raised. 3, 30%, 60%. All the Gonas giving me different answers. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So what does that tell you based on your current answer? Brian, come off mute for me, Brian. You gave yourself a 10. Was that a 10% or a 10 out of 10, Brian? Ten out of 10. Joey, can you just fix that sound for me, please? So, Brian, if you're at 10 out of 10, how do you maintain that level of emotiveness with your prospect and with yourself? You know, team, when we start to think about emotive selling and being in that emotive state, let me just go back on the screen here. Where did I click that button? Go back to the emotion. There. When we stay in that emotive state, and Brian, listen, to be that emotive at that level is such a phenomenal thing over a career. So congratulations on being in that space. For all of us, what we've got to do is remind ourselves that we need to get to an emotional decision. So here's the question for you. You want immediate change in results? What are the top 5 emotions that you want your prospect to be feeling when you are dealing with it? What are the top 5 emotions that you want? Now, you don't just want all positive. You want 1 or 2 negatives. Remember, for someone to change, they have to have a level of dissatisfaction. For someone to change, they have to have a level of, not wanting. Most people make decisions faster to get out of pain than they do to get into pleasure. So think of it from that perspective. Am I aiming to get this person into pleasure, out of pain? Someone will go to the doctor when they're feeling absolute pain, but if they're just like, I'm just feeling a little bit ill, they're not going to the doctor type thing. If you talk about the difference between someone investing money who's in, I got cancer, will I go and spend money with a doctor? 100%. I'll spend every dollar I got to survive that thing. But we talk about them having a positive life there and being super fit and super healthy. They're not. So you know the balancing act between it. What are the negatives and what are the positives that you need to have out there and make sure that you're actually getting that result? So that then brings me to the next slide. Let me go through. Communication. If you want to be a great salesperson, you need to be a great communicator. Now, communication is not the gift of the gab, as some of us have been told over the years. That stupid idea that if you're good at talking, you're good at sales. That may have worked back in the Mad Men days, that may have worked back in the 50s and 60s. It may have worked when all you needed to do to sell something was run a TV ad because no one was on TV and you were the only people there type thing. In this day and age, the gift of the gab is not what communication is. So true communication is defined by the response you get. So let's be blunt about sales. When you go into a sales scenario, does someone always make a sale? Yes, there is a sale made 100% of the time when you go into a sales scenario. Sometimes you sell them that you can help. Sometimes they sell you that you can't help. How many of you know that in the last 7 days, you got sold by a prospect that you can't help? They sold you and you bought it. You bought it. Now, it's not fun to admit, but it's real. You got sold that you couldn't help them and you bought it from them. Wave your hand at me if you've been in that scenario. You bought it, that they said, yes, I've outsold you right here in this scenario. I just outsold you. I convinced you that you couldn't help even though you thought you could. Now, with that in mind, we have to get to a level of taking responsibility for our communication. We have to get to a level of understanding our level of communication and what we communicate to people. So with that in mind, okay, with that sort of thing as part of what we're doing, I want you to think about this, right? And I want you to write it down for me. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to think about this. What are the top 3 objections you get consistently? Write them down for me because we're going to work on these as we do it. If we want to instantly improve your sales, we got to get rid of these 3 objections. So head down, pen and paper, write it up for me. What are the 3 biggest objections you get out there in the marketplace? All right, there's your 20 seconds. Start typing them in for me. Start typing them in. I don't understand. It's too expensive. It's too complicated. Thank you, George. What else do we got? Can't afford it. Don't have the time, money, timing. I don't have the time. Budget. More expensive than a competitor. It's not for me. I already have that. I need to think about it. Dang, there's so many of these that I love. Look at all of these ones. These are some of the best. Okay, let's deal with price. I think I've got time and price. Those are the two biggest ones. Who wrote down price for me and wants to come off mute for me? Don? You wrote down dollars, so come off mute for me there, Don.
Yeah.
So, Don, what is it you sell?
We're a digital marketing agency, websites, SEO, pay-per-click.
Excellent. So you're getting dollars as the thing. Can you tell me the words they use to tell you it's money? Do they say it's too expensive? Do they say I don't know? But what are the actual words you get most often?
I was just on the phone before we jumped on here, and it's a small business, and he says, I just don't have the budget, not sure that I can swing it. And that's almost like a quote.
Okay. What was the price point you had him at?
10 to 12,000 for a small website.
Okay. So let's go backwards a step. All right. How often do you get the I can't afford it thing? Out of everyone that says no, what percentage of them are saying no from a money perspective?
Not that many. I would say probably, let's say 40 to 50%.
Okay. So that's half of the people saying no are saying no for money. That's a lot. All right. That is a lot of people saying no because of money. So here's my question to you, Don. What is it that you are saying or not saying that makes them perceive this as too expensive?
Probably not expressing the value of the return that they'll get for the investment.
Okay. So here's what I found on every single objection I've ever had in my entire life. The moment I took responsibility for that objection, that I actually created an environment where they brought that objection up and felt comfortable with that objection, that's the objection I got. Years and years ago, I had to learn this, Don. I was actually teaching about business on stage, and I was teaching about raising your prices. And someone argued with me a point when I was in the room, and I didn't really know how to answer it. So I went and I studied how to answer that point, and I became really good at that point. Guess what question I never, ever, ever got again, Don?
What's that?
The same question I had before about that raising prices. Once I was really good at it, I never had it. So let me think about words that you use that lead you to a prospect saying things like it's too expensive. You use words like price rather than investment. You use words like results rather than return on investment. See, the languaging that you come to in every scenario breeds a return set of language. The way you use your words determines what words they use back to you. So what I would highly suggest to you, Don, and to everyone else on here, is I want you to record your next 5 or 6 sales calls, right? Next 5 or 6 sales presentations, turn your phone on, record the dang thing, right? For no other purpose than to listen. And I want you to listen to your words, and I want you to see how you're creating that feeling of too expensive. And you will catch yourself, Don, with like 4 or 5 phrases or 4 or 5 questions that lead them to thinking price and expense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Excellent. It's a fun activity to do for everyone other than you. If you listen to it, see, I listen to some salespeople, and let's do a simple comparison. You get a salesperson, you say, hey, I want you to record yourself talking to a prospect, and then you record them talking to their best buddy, and you can just feel the difference in the way they speak. You know, if we look at like my next point on communication on here is that, there's 38% is through voice. Now, with body language and voice being far more online today, more on telephone, more on Zoom, do you think the way you word it, the way the words you use, the voice modulation, the pitch, the speed, all of that stuff, is that more important today than ever? Yes, it most definitely is. Now, who said timing? Thank you, Don, for being a guinea pig. Who said timing? Jim. Where's Jim? Jim, come off mute. You said time was one that you were getting. Tell me, Jim, what is it you sell, and what's the way they word that excuse or the way they word that objection?
Well, I sell franchises. I sell tutor doctor franchises. So we're an education franchise, home-based. So one of the big ones now with timing, they put it in with recession, right? That's one that I don't have a problem with the objection there, because I bought a franchise 15 years ago, a tutor doctor, during a recession, 2008. So that's an easy one for me. But it's they want to leave corporate America. That's most of the reasons why they're looking into a franchise. But for some reason, it's timing. They'll blend that in with income. And that's.
So let's go back in your sales presentation. If I was to look at your sales presentation, where does the word timing pop up in your sales presentation, and where do you teach them why now is the perfect time to start this franchise?
Well, it usually comes up in the intro. I try to get it in the introduction when I'm learning about them.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Where is the document that says 7 reasons why now is the perfect time to get started?
Right at the beginning, usually is when I'm.
Where is the document? Because see, one of the things we do as salespeople, is we suck at being consistent. We think we're consistent, but we don't. Why does a pilot use, even though a pilot's been flying for 20, 30 years, why do they still use a checklist every single flight, Jim?
Not to forget anything, to make sure that they don't miss it.
As salespeople, what do you think the chances are that we miss some stuff every now and again?
All the time.
Right. So if we're getting a particular objection consistently, what does that tell you?
We're not addressing it properly.
Ta-da! So what do you got to do to make sure that that objection is addressed every single time from now on, so that you don't ever get that objection again? It's one of those things. Remove the excuses, remove the objections by doing it that way. Excellent. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for being my guinea pig. So we all know that, NLP teaches us some simple things that, and Kodak study actually gave us these numbers from way back when. NLP talks about matching and mirroring, being the body language. Now, how do we do that on this thing called, how many of you are doing more and more sales online, more and more sales on the phone, more and more sales on Zoom, stuff like that? Let me just see hands. Okay, the more we're doing in that scenario, the more that this whole thing called matching and mirroring becomes more and more impactful. When we start to see what we're doing out there, it's more and more impactful. The words you use, the way you get interactivity on this thing, all of it is becoming more and more impactful. Now, but what that does bring us to is this other point of the visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Wave your hand at me if you've studied NLP with VAK, the Language Systems Diagnostic Instrument. Wave your hand at me. One, okay, 2 people. I don't know, Chris, is your hand still up from before, or is it up for this one? Okay, perfect. So here's the thing. When you're communicating with someone, and I want you, maybe even if you're not on your phone right now, pull up your phone and take a look at some text messages of some people that you text in the last 24 hours. So grab your phone, have a look at the text messages you sent if you're not on your phone on this thing, right? And so as you look at those text messages, right, you're going to see that the people communicating with you have one of 3 main modalities of communication. The visual communicators are going to be saying things on their text is going to read something like, oh, you should see what I just saw. It was so bright. It was red. It was flashy. You'd be amazed at how good it looked. That's their languaging. Anyone seeing someone with languaging like that? See, saw, looked, etc. Who's seeing one like that? Wave your hand at me. Okay. Now the next one, the auditories, what do you think their languages is going to be? Oh, you should have heard it. Wow, it was really loud. You couldn't believe the banging and clanging of this thing. There's no way that you could miss this sound. It was such an awful. And so you look, who's got one of those? Who's got someone that's using hear, sound, noise, those sorts of words? Jim, you've got someone there, right? How about the kinesthetics, the touchy-feelies? Who's texting you with that sort of language? I feel this. How you doing? What are you feeling? What did you get done today? What's the next? And so they're the kinesthetic communicators. Now, understanding this type of communication is absolutely vital, because I'll give you an example, right? Not from sales, from normal life. My mom and my older brother. And my brother is highly kinesthetic. He's touchy-feely. Guess how he learns stuff? By doing it, okay? Got to be hands-on. That's him. My mom, highly visual. Got to see everything, all that. Like, it's a visual way of the world. My mom is with my older brother trying to get him to do homework. And here's what it looks like. It looks like this. I want you to look at this page. You're not looking at the page. The chances of him looking at the page are negligible. Does that make sense? The chances of him actually, he's kinesthetic. He wants to be standing up, walking around, not looking at the thing. It's like talking German to a Chinese person. So one of the things that I see when I'm working with salespeople is that they don't understand that the modality of the person. If I'm meeting someone who's visual, will it all look the part? Yes or no? Everything will look good. Everything will be sharp lines, straight to the point. The visual person, if I'm asking them to remember something, usually looks up. Okay, why are they looking up? They're picturing it in their mind's eye type thing. The auditory person will look to the side when I'm asking them to remember something. Why? They're thinking about the sound. They're going back into that sound. Oh, what did he say again? You know, oh, what did that guy do? Yeah, they're thinking about the sound to remember it. The kinesthetic person will look which way, do you think? Not up, not sideways, but down. They look inside. They get that feeling. What was I feeling at that point in time is their way of remembering and even their way of creating. So we want to learn. The kinesthetic person, if you look at their shoes, what shoes is a kinesthetic person wearing? The most comfortable pair of shoes on the planet. Okay, they probably don't even match their outfit. They're just more comfortable than every other pair of shoes that they've ever had. You know, that's the sort of thing that we look at time and time again. You know, the visual person, they wear shoes that look amazing. They will probably hurt, but they look amazing type thing. So when you start to study all of these things, so let me take this back a step. How many of you know that in order to earn more, you got to learn more? Who's in that category? In order to earn more, you got to learn more. You got to get better. Sales doesn't get easy. You got to get better at sales. Business doesn't get easy. You got to get better at business. All of those sorts of things that we know are the future of where we're going. So what, if I was to ask you, what level out of 10 are you studying at this point in time? What is your current study level on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you at a 10 out of 10? I'm studying, like, show me on your hands or type in the number. Where would you say your study level is for getting you to success? 4s, 6s, a couple of 8s kicking in there, some 7s, a 5, hands up, so 7s, 8s. Good. Well, the fact that you're on here tells me most of you are doing pretty dang good. Okay. So that's a starting point for all this thing. My challenge is, what are you going to continue doing so that you build your business and build your wealth and get more successful at life? And any of you on here studying any of my 30X programs, who's studying any of my 30X programs, 30X business, 30X life, or 30X wealth? Okay, so I got a bunch of you that started that study program with me. If you have not started on that, in fact, the real Gona, can you please put in a link to my 30X programs, please? And by the way, because you guys are on here today, if you go to my website, there are $990-something program, or it's $1,000. People buy it off my website all the time. But if you're on here with me today, it's simple. We do a challenge. We do a challenge once a month. We give 100 people a scholarship. to make it $99. So we're in the business of building raving fans right now. So if you want to do the 30X wealth challenge, it's 30 days with 30 minutes a day for 30 days with me on wealth, 30 minutes a day on life for 30 days, or the business one, 30 minutes a day with me for 30 days on business. You want to do any of those challenges, click those links. Do we have a link for them to do all three? Do we have one of those? So back to the lessons on sales. All right. So not only do we have to be good, by the way, those $99, that's just while we're here on the webinar today. So click the link so you've at least got it up on your thing. You got to make a decision here today if you want the $99 deal. So not only do we have to learn how people communicate, we got to learn buying styles as well. Who studied the DISC profile? Anyone studied DISC? Keep your hand up if you've studied it for sales, not just for people or management type thing. Excellent. So what did we learn from the DISC profile system? We learned that people have different buying styles. We learned that your sales style is different to other people's buying styles. Now, where are those of you on here that those of you that have studied it? Raise your hand if you're a high DISC, meaning you can adapt to any one of the 4 modalities pretty darn quick. High DISCs, raise your hand. Okay, see, most people learn these things, and unfortunately what they learn is how to be more of the one they already are. Your job of learning all of this, oh, thanks, you got all 3 there. Thank you, Gunnar, the 90 days one, okay? So if you want to do 90 days straight with me, like if you think that we're covering a lot now in an hour, wait till you get me for 90 days straight. You're going to just be, your brain is going to be amazing by the end of that. 90 days of just learning. Because here's my theory on the 90 days, right? In 90 days, if I can change the way you think, then you can change your entire life. All I got to do is change the way you think. So you give me 90 days, I'll change the way you think, then you can change your entire life. So in learning behavioral profiles, one of the biggest things you have to do is learn how to master the ability to make a decision real quick as to what modality, what behavioral style everybody is. So if I walk into a room and say I'm meeting Scott for the first time, I walk into the room, I'm meeting Scott for the first time, my first question is, do I perceive this person as outgoing or do I perceive this person as reserved? Now, if they're outgoing, what do I know? I know that there's a good chance they're D or I. Now, D stands for dominance, I is for influence. The dominant is the gotta be number one, the influence is the person that wants to be everyone's best friend. So once I've checked out, are they outgoing or reserved? Then I'm going to check out, are they task-oriented or people-oriented, okay? Are they task or people? Because if they're task-oriented, I know they're a high D or a high C. C is my compliance-oriented person. They're the highly detailed style person. If I've got people-oriented, I know they're the I or the S, okay? So they're people-oriented. If they're outgoing in people, then they're a high I. If they're reserved in people, then they're a high S. Now, why is this important for us in sales? Brian, how do you sell to a high D? Scott, how do you sell to a high I? Fernando, how do you sell to a high S? Heather, Eric, how do you sell to a high C? I don't want you to answer me, but I want you to understand that these people make buying decisions entirely different. Now, I'm a high D by nature, which of course none of you would guess that at all, would you? As a high D by nature, my way of doing things is give me the bottom line. Just give me the bottom line. I want the 1-page summary. In fact, I'd like the 1-paragraph summary. If you send me an email that is more than 4 lines in it, like if I have to scroll on my phone to read your email, yeah, you're not getting read. You know, it's straight to the point or miss out. I like the newest, I like the latest, I like the greatest. How many of you sell to a lot of people? How many is this your target audience, that style of person, okay? So you got to study that style of person and get good at selling to them. They're the hunter, right? If I'm looking at them as salespeople, if you're recruiting salespeople, by the way, D's and I's are great salespeople. D's are your hunters. They're the hunters. If you want someone that's just doing a bulk load of numbers, hire the D's. You want someone who's a relationship builder, a farmer, hire the high I's. If you've never done this process, please get with your action coach or reach out to Gunnar and we'll send you the link so you can do these tests. I forget how much they charge for them, but whatever it is, that's what you'll pay. You'll have fun with it. You'll learn a bunch about yourself and do that stuff. Now, if I'm selling to a high I, what's the difference in selling to a high I? I've got to be their best friend. Now, me as a high D, I'm not really a people-oriented person. If I'm selling to a high I, do I need to shift and become a people-oriented person? Yes or no? Like, I remember meeting someone who was here in town to invest in an ActionCOACH franchise. And this guy was a high S, ex-military, but definitely people-oriented. Had to go slow, had to go steady. If they were a high D or a high I could have the sale done in a matter of minutes, sort of thing. The high D, sale, done. Like how do you sell a high D? You walk in and you say, hey, so do we need to do all this sales pitch, or are you just ready to buy? That's literally how you sell a high D. I mean, you know, they're ready to buy, they're ready to go. The high I got to become their best friend. This guy was a high S. I had to take him to dinner. We had to sit down. We had to chat about life. We had to get to know his family, his friends. We had to make sure all that. And we had to go to a concert and hang out together. And by the end of that, yes, he's ready to buy. His know, like, and trust factor is high because we'd spent the time together and I'd done the high S needs to do. I'd made him see how it was similar to what he was doing in the past. I'd made sure that he understood that we were people-oriented, that we were in his camp type thing. The high C's, on the other hand, I don't know about many of you, but if there's one group I really struggle with selling to, it's the high C's, because they're extraordinarily detail oriented. If there's 100 questions you can ask about something, how many will a high C ask? 101. They will not just ask 100. They will ask all 101 questions. They'll make up a question about something that didn't even exist before. They want not just, if you send them a summary document, they'll ask, where's the rest? That's the chapter headings, right? You know, they want every single minute detail. Anyone got a lot of these you sell to, like engineers and that sort of thing? Oh yeah, you guys are the ones laughing right now because you go, yeah, this is a lot of fun, you know. So, it's your sales process has to be set up for the target audience that you have. Remind yourself that you set your sales process for the target audience that you have. If you're selling to a lot of high Ds, now here's an interesting thing. Changing the wording on your advertising can change the type of prospect that comes to you. That's a whole marketing segment, but we'll do that another day. But keep this stuff in mind. Again, if you want to learn that stuff in detail, make sure you do. All right, questions. Raise your hand if you have your questions that you ask prospects or that you ask potential customers actually written and documented. Who has them written and documented, the questions that you ask? Okay, how many of you are good at doing homework? You actually will study a prospect and get at least a dozen new questions written down that you haven't asked other prospects, but you're going to ask this person. You know, industry specific stuff like that. Who's good at homework? Okay, one of the biggest challenges I find with a lot of salespeople is they're just not good enough at their homework, and so therefore they dive into it and they haven't done enough research. My biggest thing today is, how easy is researching a prospect today? Do they put their entire life out there? Their LinkedIn profile, you got to connect with the prospect before you go meet with them. If they're Facebook, you got to connect with as many prospects as you can before you go meet with them, learn their background, all that sort of thing. One of the simplest things we can do is be very strong at our homework about an industry, about a business, about a person. Knowing the details gets us to the win. All right. The question process. Let me just take you through my perception of the question process. Okay. I'm a big believer in it. I'm going to get to the positioning statement in just a moment. And the positioning statement is something that I think is going to revolutionize your sales. It'll revolutionize the way you sell. With the questioning process, one of the things that I find absolutely vitally important is that I'm listening for their first question back to me. I set it up that I'm going to ask them a lot of questions in any particular thing because I'm a solution-based selling person. I want to solve their problems, right? So I'm asking the question, they give an answer, ask a question, they give an answer, ask a question, they give an answer. At some point, I've made the sale when they ask me the question. Now, if I'm too process-driven, what will happen at that point in time? I miss the buying signal. How many of you in this room are real good at listening for the buying signal? You listen for them asking that question and you pick it up like time after time after time. Raise your hand if you're the other side of that equation. You miss the buying signals and you keep going. Okay, you're either one or the other. Either you're really good at picking buying signals or you're missing buying signals. Okay, gang. So who's really good at picking buying signals? Okay, who misses the buying signals and keeps going? So if you miss that first buying signal, you follow your process too much, you keep going and you lose them because you went past the point of the sale. You know, it's like I take my wife out for dinner, we're having a great old time, and it's time to head home, and I just want to have one more drink and a cigar, and it's now too late. You know, you got to pick the sale time when it's sale time. Make sure that you're on the ball with that thing. So if we look at the old way selling worked versus the new way of selling worked, the old way was, you know, build a little bit of rapport, do a lot of selling and a little bit of follow-up. Nowadays, which way do we do it? We do a lot of rapport building up front. Well, I still look at it, the best piece of advice I ever got on sales was pretty simple. It is meet with people socially before you meet with them to make a sale. Meet with them socially before you meet with them to make a sale. And it changed the way I sold. Instead of actually going and the first time I met them was the sales presentation, I would always drop in on a prospect and drop off the information kit. So I've met them face to face. I've said hi. My first meeting with a prospect, even today, the first time I meet with a new prospect, my goal is to just make it social. Why don't we have a coffee? Why don't we have a lunch? Why don't we just get together and chat? If you were to look at the sales presentations you're doing, what percentage of know, like, and trust are you before you get to doing the sales pitch? Do you know their dog's name? Know their wife or husband's name? Do you know when their birthday is? What's their football team? What level of rapport building are you doing in your sales scenario right now? You want me to buy from you, and I'm a big believer in know, like, and trust. If I don't know you, how can I like you? If I don't like you, how can I trust you? So that follow-up is massive. Selling is very small. I don't need to do a lot of selling because I've built rapport with them. You know, you all know I sell business coaching. And for me, I've never sold business coaching in my life. I've sold that gal or that guy going to see their kids play football. I want to say that again. I've never sold business coaching in my life. I've sold the thing that they want. And by building rapport, I found why they're chatting with me. You know, why are you chatting with me? What's going on with your business? What's going on? What's happening? And when they tell me, you know what, Brad, my business, it's not really a business. It's crushing me. I'm working 15, 16-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week just to get by. So, you know, what would you do if you had the time? What would you do if you had the money? And they tell me, I haven't seen my kid's sporting game in 5 years. It's like, all right, that's what I'm selling because I built rapport. So let's go a little deeper into questioning then, gang, and understand the questioning philosophy. The words on the right-hand side of this are probably the most important words. Play dumb and dig deep. Play dumb and dig deep. So as you get more and more into the detailed questions, and by the way, what is the dumbest question in sales? Dumbest question in sales. Would you like to buy it? Worst question ever in sales. Would you like to buy it? What's the best question in sales? Should I deliver that tomorrow or Thursday? Do you want the $12,000 website, or do you want the cut down, pared down version and do the $6,000 website, Don? You know, do you want the do-it-yourself model, or do you want the one where we do this? Do you want it in the red or the black? We never ask, do you want to buy it? We just ask a detailed question. And when they answer that question, it's confirming that they want to buy it type thing. But as we do more and more of this play dumb and dig deep really is where we're pushing to emotion. It's where we're getting to emotion. Oh, and what would that mean? I was with a gentleman probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. And we're talking about, he runs a big franchise organization. He was talking about increasing his store-on-store sales. I said, well, what would it mean to you if you increase store-on-store sales? Now, we spent another 5 minutes discussing what it would mean to him to increase store-on-store sales. You know what would actually mean to him? He could recruit someone to do a lot of the work that he's doing right now so he could actually spend some time off. He could recruit someone and do that. So I wasn't selling him the fix to that. I was selling him the end result by playing dumb. What would that mean to you? Well, how would that work? Now, most of the time, by the way, I've got to soften my questions. These are my favorite question softeners, these three. Write them down. Number one, can I just ask? Hey, you know what, Scott? Can I just ask what? Well, Don, by the way, what is, incidentally, Fernando, so by using these softeners, it holds the question down to much better response. Now, this one I believe is going to revolutionize your sales. So write it down. Write these down in order: permission, process, question, solutions, agreement, decision, investment, action, and permission again. This is what I call a positioning statement. This is used within the first 5 minutes of meeting with a prospect. You will have different positioning statements for different meetings. If it's a meeting where you are going for a sale, that's the one I'm going to deal with right now. The meeting where you're going for a sale, not just a meeting where you're going for another meeting type thing. Who sent me that question? One of the Goners sent me a direct question. It's not actually Goner, I can tell that. We need to find out why that happened too, because that's kind of weird. Can I answer the question? The question is about getting this at a high level of learning. I'll answer that question more towards the end. By the way, if you haven't clicked those links, make sure you go back and click those links, because the end of today, that $99 is done, right? So, purpose statement. Let's say I'm sitting down with a prospect. The first thing I do is I ask permission. Hey, Jim, is it okay if I outline how I'd like our meeting to run today? Now, by doing that, I'm giving them control of the meeting, but actually taking control of it myself, if that makes sense. Okay, they feel in control, but I'm getting control. So the first thing I'm gonna do, Jim, and I'm just gonna follow this process here, gang, what's outlined to you on the screen. First thing I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna ask you a whole bunch of questions, because I've got some information from you here, but I need to get a bit more information in order to be able to understand really what it is that's happening in your business and how things are moving for you. Then what I'm going to do is, based on those questions, I'm going to present you with a few different options, some solutions that might work for you. And if you and I agree, Jim, that one of those options is the right move for you, if you and I both agree on that, I'm going to ask you to make a decision today and make an investment today so we can get started on solving your problems. So is it okay, Jim, if we work together that way today? So what have I done? By positioning this up front, I've told them very clearly up front, this is what's happening. This is how we're going to do this thing. I mean, I give you permission. I ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to present you with a solution. If we both are in agreement, boom, there we are. Gunnar, could you just put up the deal on the books, please? Can you put up the book link after the book? Thank you, thank you. So by doing it this way, how professional do I come across? By doing it this way, how open do I come across? How trustworthy do I come across? By being this clear and upfront. Now, when am I going to get an objection? If they're like, I don't want to buy today. Oh, look, my wife's not here. I can't buy today. Oh, look, my business partner does that. I need to speak with my partner about this. Then now I've got a chance to reschedule. Of course, I should have dealt with that earlier, but it gives me that chance to get the objections up front. I didn't want to make a decision here today. How many of you know when you meet with people and they've looked at each other and said, now, whatever we do, we're not making a decision today. You know, those sorts of things where you've got to actually get through that. So that's why that's important. Now, during the whole process, of course, you're going to be asking the questions. The way I ask the questions is I ask a question, I listen. They know I'm listening for two reasons. How do they know I'm listening? Number one, I'm doing what? I'm writing stuff down. What's the number two reason they know I'm listening? I'm giving feedback. I'm either nodding if we're face to face, or I'm saying, all right, yep, okay, oh, let me write that down. I'm giving them feedback that I am listening. I'm repeating back to them what they've said. I'm doing all of these things because I am working towards all of that, okay? So as a salesperson, how do we instantly change our numbers? First thing, let me just get a raise of hands on this one. This is my last teaching point before I go to all questions for today. Please raise your hand if you know your conversion rate at every step of your sales process, not just conversion from first meeting to actual sale, but from first meeting to second meeting to third meeting, or whatever it might be, okay, in your business. Please raise your hand if you're keeping that number clear. You know your conversion rate from meeting to meeting. Got one hand waving at me. Is that it? Just one? Okay. So you want immediate change in your sales results. What's the number one way to get an immediate change in your sales results? Start measuring every single step of the sales process. From step 1 to step 2, step 2 to step 3, step 3 to step 4. I know for us at Action Coach, we have a 13-step sales process. It's 13 steps and 7 touches. In that 13-step, 7-touch sales process, if I sit down with one of my salespeople or one of my coaches and I ask them to show me their numbers, I can see which step I need to fix. I don't need to fix their whole sales process. I don't need to train them in all of sales. What I need to do is fix step whatever. And if I know that I need to fix one step rather than the whole thing, very important. Very important. So, please start thinking about what it is you want to ask. Every person that asks a question will get a bonus. If you don't ask a question, you don't get a bonus. Let me just introduce you to those other programs, and I'm going to put it up here on the screen. So the 90 days is, again, 90 days you and me together talking about business and wealth and life. 30 days on each of those. Oh, my Entrepreneurs University. This one is, these are these 2 dates for this year. We finish out, then we'll get all the dates for next year coming through. So this is 7 days, 4 events with me. There's 2 days on scalability, scaling your business. 2 days on entrepreneurs, how to buy, build, and sell companies. 2 days on purpose, living your life on purpose. Oh, Goni, you beat me to it. You got the link up in there. Excellent, thank you. And a day on landlord, how to invest in real estate. That's my Entrepreneur University. If you're interested in that, we are still doing the COVID virtual price of $8,000 for all 4 of them. It's normally 24 grand. When we do it live, which will be next year, it'll be 24 grand. If you sign up with it now, you can get the $8,000 virtual price point. Whether we do them virtually or live next year, you get to come either way. So make sure you click that link and know what that is if you want to come join us for all of those programs. And I think that's it till I get the questions. Oh, 30X Life Challenge. That's just if you want to do the 30-day life one. Okay, so going to put that email up before. The Wealth Challenge, again, 30 days with 30 minutes with me. Plus you meet with a coach who takes you through it every day. You go through with a group of people, what your learnings were, and all of that stuff. All right, let's stop this screen sharing thing. Okie doke. Questions. Now, actually, some of you sent in questions beforehand. Let me go to those first while you guys are typing in. Oh, what are the different skills a sales manager needs over a salesperson? Sales manager versus a salesperson, totally different. So today is really about being a great salesperson more than a great sales manager. So I would stay focused on that one, how does sales actually work better. But let me give you the 3 top things we look for if we're helping someone select a sales manager or we're training someone to be a sales manager. Number 1, can they coach, mentor, and educate the salespeople? Because they've got to, your job as a manager is to build competency and productivity. So can you build the competency of your salespeople? Can you actually make them better salespeople? You don't have to be a great salesperson to do that. We've seen many sporting coaches do that they were, okay at the sport, but great coaches type thing. They could build better players than they could actually be themselves. Second thing is, are you willing to measure? Because if you're not willing to measure, then don't go into management. You cannot manage what you do not measure is probably simple. And the third thing is, if you're going to be a great sales manager, are you willing to help your salespeople not get in their way? Are you willing to help rather than get in their way? It's All right, the other question that came in beforehand, and then I'll go to any that you guys and gals have got from me today. Also, oh, yes, thank you for the reminder, the real Gona. Any of you that would want to join any of those programs today, if you join the programs today, Gona runs a special session where you do a Q&A with me on any subject you like on that. So if you do those today, we can do that. I got time for 3 questions. Actually, I don't really. I got time for no questions, do I? I'll finish this. If there's anyone typed one in, I'll take a quick look. But this other question that came in beforehand, how do I train myself to be a great salesperson? You don't. You have to have someone else train you. We do a 12-week sales training program. So if you want to chat with your action coach, or if you don't have an action coach, let Gona know. She will connect you with your action coach in your area. But we run a 12-week sales training. I find it's too hard. I know as a salesperson myself, training myself was always just a challenge. So that's the thing. Excellent. What was your top lesson of the day? Type in your top lesson of the day for me. What was the one takeaway you took out of this? What's the one thing you're going to act on most? Best proven method to communicate with kinesthetic customers and clients. Now, it depends on if you can be face-to-face with them or not. Obviously, if you're face-to-face, it's easy. You give them a hug and you shake hands and you give them heavy things and all of that sort of stuff. Who trained me? Many different people. Paul Dunn, Tommy Hopkins, Alan Pease, Brett Chamberlain was one of my sales managers, many sales managers over the time. Do your homework to know your candidate. Great points. Need to write down my read everyday affirmations about sales. Very nice. How to look for the buying signal. Very nice. Importance of rapport. Meet socially first. Loads of rapport up front. Who hasn't given me their main lesson yet? Type it in for me if I haven't got yours from you. Todd, what emotions do you want them to feel? Yeah, that's a big one. It's a big one. You got to ask questions that lead them to those emotions. You got to focus on those emotions. That'll help you get those buying decisions from them. Thank you for participating today, gang. Really appreciate it. Look forward to chatting again at some stage in the near future. Jump on those links, come back to us, let us know what you need and where you need help in growing. I'll see you on next month's webinar. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you.